look up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney top. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh why can't I?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Helen Ghent, and I have been involved with the Sudbury Theatre Centre since its inception in 1971. When I came to Sudbury in 1958, there was no professional theatre, and the general population had never been exposed to it. Fortunately, a group of local people involved with amateur theatre tested the waters and decided that Sudbury was ready for a professional theatre, and so began the STC. Change happened. Today we're focusing on change. Back then, we had a perfect fit with our first artistic director, Tony Lloyd. Tony was able to produce a season that started with a comedy, ended with a big musical, and in the middle did a serious piece of work to placate the funding bodies. Those productions were usually the best pieces for the serious aficionados, but not with the general public. Tony was able to make the funding bodies see that to succeed, we had to develop an audience, and as he said, put bums in the seats. So for 15 years, we rolled along until Tony decided that he wanted a personal professional change, and we were in for a complete change. So let's fast forward to the last decade. We had crisis upon crisis, ending with COVID, having severe financial constraints and lack of funding due to poor grant applications, lack of vision, and lack of attendance. The board knew we had to change, and we were really concerned about what to do, and then the penny dropped. We didn't have to go far. We realized that there might be a way to solve our problem and enhance the stature of theater in Sudbury by recognizing the talent already here. At a cast party at my home after a play years ago, I met a young man who was in his teens and in his first professional production. And what impressed me was the respect that the rest of the cast had for him. This young man was born with a passion for theater, and in his teens, he asked his parents to back him so he could form a theater company. They did. I remember his mother saying to me, I thought we were going to have to mortgage the house. Anyway, he continued his education in the arts. He continued creating and producing and directing plays in the summer. He continued his professional development and added Christmas productions, and since then has become extremely well-connected, not only in Canada and North America, but internationally. He knows everything about the theater world today and is a visionary. And most importantly, he is invested in this community. At a seminar on change in the 80s, a lecturer ended his address with this analogy. If you do not change, you will be like a bug on the windshield of time. Ladies and gentlemen, to save us from this fate, it is my privilege to introduce you to our agent for change, Alessandro Costantini, Artistic Director of Yes Theatre and the Sudbury Theatre Centre. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you all for being here today, and welcome to all those from our artistic community, patrons and supporters of the Sudbury Theatre Centre and Yes Theatre, and members of our press. Before we begin today, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a dear friend and colleague of our artistic community, Gary DeSale, who passed away this week. Gary was a mammoth artist and one of the greatest humans I've had the privilege to collaborate with in my career. He leaves behind a profound legacy here in Sudbury, and we will miss him dearly. And we will be dedicating our work this season to his memory. So thank you, Gary. And this morning, I am grateful to be able to share with you all, along with colleagues and citizens from our community, the specifics of what this partnership will be. This initiative and the complex specifics surrounding it have taken a lot of time, careful thought, meetings with arts professionals across the country, sensitive legal conversations, and the whole gamut, but we are extremely thankful to have arrived at a place where we can now share with you. First, it is deeply important to me to zoom out and articulate the global context in which this venture came to be, and the state of the theater as an art form in our community and here in our country. So what is the intention of this art form? To me, it is to create a sacred place where community can manifest through storytelling and shared experiences, where people gather to learn, to crack open, to breathe, to be challenged and changed, and where we can, hopefully, progress as a society. I believe one of the biggest social problems we face is the bereftness of art in society. And recently someone observed to me that so many, in their ambitions and struggles and exhaustion, seem to have been convinced, or have convinced themselves, just to let art and a respect for the planet and for the inner existence fall out of their daily habit. Society's view or understanding of arts and cultures has diminished in many ways: aging population, the cutting of arts education, the age of Netflix, communication styles rapidly shifting. And the reasoning and the root behind that diminishing has been percolating in my mind and heart for most of the last decade. And I've been striving through my work here in Sudbury and abroad to critically analyze the systems and the structures in place that have, in many ways, supported this disconnection of the form from the pulse of the communities it is meant to serve. I think it also must be stated that citizens do not have an obligation to this art form. If we want our community to be invested, we must create relationships to the artist, to the material, to this physical space. Meaning is created through relationships. The overarching imperative of this venture was rooted in that singular belief, that we must strengthen our community's relationship to the theater. I think an important pillar to address when speaking to the intention of the art form are the mandates of the institutions here today. The Sudbury Theatre Centre's purpose is to entertain, educate, enlighten, engage, and invigorate its audience through creation and presentation of top-quality local, national, and international professional theatre productions. Sudbury Theatre Centre teaches and develops awareness, appreciation, and practice of the art of theatre as a dynamic leader in the cultural life of the city of Greater Sudbury and the region, as well as a leading force in the Canadian theatre industry. Yes Theatre's mandate is to merge the values and practices of professional and community theatre. We create citizen artists, those who live, work, and play in our community and believe in artistic connection. Our work provides a context to reinvent and heighten the impact and intention of the theatre as a central pillar of society, a place to edify, inspire, and bring people together. These mandates both speak innately to a desire to see theatre as a catalyst for connection. It is our desire, intention, and belief that both of these mandates can be directly honored and maintained as we enter into this season of programming. I'd now like to welcome John Dow, the co-chair of the Sudbury Theatre Centre Board of Governors, to provide some context as how we got to be here.
It's 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning and there's a lot of people in this theatre. I think we're heading in the right direction. Hello everyone, my name is John Dow, and And I'm proud to share the work that the STC Board of Governors has been undertaking the last couple of months to ensure the sustainability of the Sudbury Theatre Centre and of English-speaking professional theatre here in Sudbury. Our board is composed of a dedicated group of volunteers who I want to thank sincerely for their time and energy. I can assure you here, you've already met Helen and myself, that we're here to ensure that the legacy of the Sudbury Theatre Centre does not move into the night. The legacy of the Sudbury Theatre Centre is recognized as one of Canada's prominent regional theatres with a rich history of theatrical work and has inspired generations of Sudburyans. In the last decade, however, it's no secret that the STC has struggled financially, and we have had to continuously cut back to live within our means. We felt that the financial constraints had a crippling effect on the artistic work, and it was not possible to see a viable path forward under the existing model. We had to ask ourselves whether the work we were accomplishing was in line with our mandate, and we made a decision that involved significant change. In December 2021, we reached out to Yes Theatre. After initial conversations about professional practice, the existing structures, and forms, we determined as boards that it's in the best interest of both organizations to become one combined entity. We have identified the financial benefits, the artistic benefits, and we've also looked at the impact on the community at large. However, executing these ideas and concepts will take time and due diligence. Where we stand at this point is simply a pilot season, where the two companies will work together to execute on both mandates, which you saw earlier. We will continue to have community consultations, and we'll move closer as we move towards this exciting merger. Conflicts of interest, whether real or perceived, were declared. Those members did not vote, and no conflict was of a financial interest. Sudbury has an interconnected arts community, and it's common for art lovers to be involved in more than one arts organization due to their passion for our community and seeing arts flourish within. Members that were involved with both companies stepped back because they acknowledged that they had a non-fiduciary conflict. Before we move into any notion of an official merger, we are entering into a pilot season. Call it, well, this is our feasibility stage that we're going through this year. And there'll be a concerted effort to maximize overhead cost savings through a new business model that would create and increase opportunities for artists and audiences. Throughout the process of the 2022-23 season, we will continue to develop the vision and create opportunities for the community to contribute to that vision. Like everyone in this room, we recognize the deep responsibility to ensure that the legacy, history, and mandates of each organization are maintained. And we are confident that as a community, we'll make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'd like to now invite Scott Denniston, the General Manager for both YES and STC, up to the stage to take us through some very important financial history and projections for the year to come.
Morning, folks. My name is Scott Denniston. I'm the General Manager for Yes Theatre and the Interim General Manager for the Sudbury Theatre Centre. And for those of you who don't know me, I grew up here in Sudbury, and my love for theatre began right here in Ron Tuff's Saturday morning acting classes, right over there in Steve's Encore Lounge. And then, of course, I graduated to the Students on Stage program after that. So please take a moment to enjoy this photo of baby Scott getting ready for one of his first ever shows here at the Sudbury Theatre Centre. But before I jump into some of the financial numbers, I did want to share with you a quick story about my first play here ever at the Sudbury Theatre Centre, and it was a play called A Nose is a Nose is a Nose. And I had 2 lines in the whole show. And I was so excited. I was sitting right over there. I remember it clear as day, you know, on stage with my fellow actors, my friends, waiting for my line to come. I was listening, I was excited, and all of a sudden, silence. And I'm looking around, I'm wondering what happened, what's going on, and everyone is staring back at me. And it was me. I had forgotten my lines. 2 lines in the whole show, forgot one of them. So, anyways, I've grown up a bit since that point, and I'm now here to share some financial information and the impact numbers that we expect to generate through this partnership. And I wanted to share that story with you all in advance because I want you to know that I, along with Alessandro and many of the staff that you'll see present today, have deep ties to the Sudbury Theatre Centre, and we care deeply about its survival and its sustainability. A little bit more about who I am. I'm a graduate of the Ivey Business School with a focus on entrepreneurial finance, accounting, and leadership. And I have a number of years' experience managing the finances for small and medium-sized companies throughout Northern Ontario, and most recently in the nonprofit space with Yes. So, over the last number of weeks, I've had a chance to dive into the financial history of the Sudbury Theatre Centre, reaching back to 2010, and hopes to share some of that information with you at a fairly high level, right? So that we have a better understanding of that question, how did we get to be here? And a lot of this information is publicly available, at least from 2016 forward, through the CRA's Charity Listings website. I also hope to share with you some of the projections that we have for this partnership and what it can mean for artists in our community, new work development, and education. So that first question, how did we get to be here? And the easiest way to answer this question is to look at audience numbers. So, as you can see, and this is a long-standing issue, not only here at the Sudbury Theatre Centre, but across the country in regional theatres, but we see a declining audience number from 2010 when we were enjoying audiences of about 30,000 people, and then it declined to about 10,000 people per year by 2020, and then of course once the pandemic hit, we're now seeing audiences between 2,500 and 3,500 people per season. So the decline in audiences and overly ambitious programming between the years of 2014 and 2017 caused some pretty massive deficits, ranging from $200,000 to $300,000 per year. And by 2017, we had an accumulated deficit of $554,000. So, at this critical moment, the board took action, right? And in order to keep the company moving forward, there was a change in executive staff, additional financial support via a one-time grant from the City of Greater Sudbury of $200,000 and a new mortgage of $190,000. So this funding was really beneficial to the company in terms of paying off some debts and getting us back to that 0 point, but it wasn't enough to produce a season that resulted in a robust growth in audiences, right? So let's now have a quick look at the audience attendance per show. So it was in 2017 when the house occupancy rates dropped below 50%, okay, making it very difficult to present a show that will cover the running costs, let alone any of the development costs for the production. So this resulted in cutting back towards smaller and smaller running costs, smaller cast sizes, smaller crews, etc., to mitigate further loss to the company. So, what starts to happen here then is this downward spiral where the financial constraints lead to a tightening of the belt, right? Or reduced organizational capacity, which affects all other areas of revenue generation. So, smaller shows leads to smaller audiences, leads to less donors, leads to concerns from funding bodies. And the bottom line is that because of the diminishing audiences, STC has reached a point similar to where we were at in 2017, where it just can't continue along the same path, financially speaking, anyway. And, as a nonprofit, once you've exhausted all revenue opportunities and debt options, it's best practices to look for partners, right? And so I can tell you from Yes's perspective, we are proud to be able to share resources with the Sudbury Theatre Centre, a place that, after all, has been Yes's home since 2010, right, with our production of Hair. And Yes's audience growth follows an opposite trend. 2021 saw us successfully fundraise $2.8 million for the construction of the Refectorio over on Durham Street. In December of 2020, Yes and the Sudbury Theatre Centre co-produced Bed and Breakfast, which was the only professional theatre production taking place across the country at that point, with audiences in attendance of 850 people in person, and then an additional 400 streams. And then as the pandemic raged on, we pivoted to our work in the Innovative Outdoor Grotto series, which was an epic community moment with over 3,500 people in attendance during 1 month, the month of September of last year. So, with a renewed vision for the future, we are confident we can rejuvenate audiences and create a whole new generation of theatre makers and theatre goers. We will build on the strength of our local philanthropic culture, increase sponsorships by creating a tangible connection to the community through our work, and together we will have a massive impact on our arts community. So let me show you some of those numbers, those impact numbers now. So we're measuring the impact of this partnership primarily on opportunities for artists, new work creation, and education for youth. So the first impact number that we'll look at is how much money can we generate for theatre artists here in our community, and the number of artists that we can hire. This includes both folks on stage and off stage. So let's look at the 2 previous seasons for the Sudbury Theatre Centre and Yes Theatre. So this past season, the Sudbury Theatre Centre's total payment to artists was $95,346. This was dispersed to 34 artists, 12 of which were CAEA members, averaging $2,804 per artist. In Yes's last season, there was a total payments to artists of $162,178. These funds were distributed to 36 artists, 2 of which being CAEA members, and 10 musicians, averaging $3,525.61. Now, in our projected season for 2022 and 2023, with combined resources, we will create 203 actor contracts, including 33 CAEA members, 65 musician contracts, and 65 creative team contracts for a total of $1,205,478 for artists, and most of which will go to those that live, work, and play in our community, which is really fantastic, right? This is a profound increase to our local artistic economy and will be achieved by executing the citizen artistry model and strengthening all other areas of revenue. So the other impact measures, the second one being the new work creation. So we are excited to continue to invest $50,000 per year directly on new work development, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this presentation. And then the third measure being education. So we'll continue to build on the success of the Sudbury Theatre Centre's education programs, generating over 150 learning opportunities for youth to learn and grow as young artists in our community. So folks, I hope these numbers shed some light on how we've gotten to this point. And I also hope that some of these numbers I shared today make you excited about the possibilities and the prospects of what we can accomplish together. So I'm going to turn it over now to Ruthie Coote, Artistic Associate, to introduce you all to the pieces that will compose the remainder of the 2022 season. Ruthie.